wherever the bone is weakest is where, but it doesn't change the rest of the face, doesn't change the eye sockets, doesn't take away the inion, doesn't change the positioning of the neck. It doesn't change the thickness of the bone, of the rest of it, from wherever the swelling occurs. It doesn't turn it into something other than a human. It's not, the Starchild is not hydrocephaly. It's not hydrocephaly, it's not cradle boarding. All right, this is the rear, and as you see, there's a very different design back here. These are the bones, the parietals, the occipital, and this is the inion area right here, the knot, and you see these two areas of the fossa where the big muscles, neck muscles attach, and you see that on the Starchild, this is the inion that's missing that I told you about. That circular area right there is a dent, and there the fossa, instead of being up here where they belong, are down here, and the bone has been stretched up and flattened out, but naturally there. And now here too you also see the crease. Now, the crease is something else that hydrocephaly does not allow, because the pressure is uniform out everywhere. It would not lead to a crease unless there was a premature suture back there. If this, prematurely fused or unnaturally fused suture right here. Now the sutures, I hope you all know that when you're born, this is not how you look. There's bone here, bone here, bone here, but all the middle part is ligament, so that you can squeeze out the birth canal and then your head can reshape into its normal shape. And then over the next 2-3 years, it all connects itself, and the last part to connect is this triple junction right up here at the top, the baby's soft spot, right? So that you see that the Starchild is very well sutured, and these things here that people look at and they say, what are those? Those are called Wormian bones or islands. They're perfectly normal. When one side fuses before another, the other side has to fill in, and that's how it does it. Nothing odd, but they're weird to look at if you don't know what they are. But this, as far as this suturing goes, premature closing, one of the first things we did was check out to make sure that wasn't a part of it, and it wasn't. And we'll see the test results of that later. But just trust me, it's not cradle boarding, it's not hydrocephaly, and yet when you go and you look at criticisms of it, that's what you'll see from the critics and the skeptics. Just, it's a cradle boarded hydrocephalic, forget about it. Very frustrating. This is the slide just to show that the convolutions are very clear, both visually and with your hands. You can see it was never cradle boarded. All right, this is the top view, and this shows you the area that I was talking about with the soft spot, the triple juncture. And here you get a really good view of the crease area that would provide that heart-shaped dent in the face that would lead you to believe it was a gray alien. Now, this is the underside. And this is an interesting area, interesting look. Remember, I told you that the zygomatic arch is broken off on the human, but you see the complete one here. And you see that these stubs right here are the broken part. The little throw would be much closer here. We'll see this in a minute. But this area right here is called the basilar part, and it's important for you to understand this. The basilar part is just missing on the Starchild, missing. Now, why? The basilar part is one of the last parts of your skull to fuse. It does it between the age of 20 and 25. So one can make an argument that the Starchild died before the age of 20 or 25, and that this just dropped out in the process just like the jawbone would because it wasn't really connected. Or you could make the argument that it was indeed fused, but that in the tumble down that took out the face and knocked out the zygomatic arches and all that, whatever it slammed into or was pushed into took that out as well. We have no way to know because that wouldn't be a real strong connection there in any case. So that's one argument. Now what we're going to look at next is the neck area. Now as we see, we have two very different necks. This is a standard human neck form and area, and this is the Starchild. So we see that it's greatly reduced in area and shape. Very different neck. Okay? This is the back side view of it, looking at where the inion would have been and the fossa connection of the neck, and so it gives you the very clear, and this is the real one, and this is the model that you'll be holding. So you see it's pretty close as we can get it. And this is the two areas of the neck connections, and you see how much smaller the neck of the Starchild is, completely different. Now this is the zygomatic arches, the cheekbones. Now with the normal human, you can get about 2 fingers up through that. And what that is just a mass of muscle. It's your chewing muscles going up through there, and they're going to spread out on the side of your head and attach. With Starchild, as you can see, that's maybe 2 good-sized drinking straws, soda straws that would go through there. A much tighter, much closer fit from all we can tell from the structure of the base of it. Now the balance points, this is really important and really interesting. The balance point of a human head is a little bit back of center, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches back of the dead center point. Why? Because the front of our faces are empty for the most part. There's a lot of empty area here. There are sinuses, big deep sinuses, frontal sinuses that go here. There's big deep eye sockets that go in here. There's our nasal passages, there's our mouth. So it's a skinny guy and a fat guy on a seesaw. You've got to move the fulcrum back to make it work. All right? So that's what's happened here, and you have that balance point like that. Now with the Starchild, very different. As you will see later, but trust me when I tell you, there are no sinuses in here. No frontal sinuses at all, not even a shred of a sinus. Absolutely gone. Very shallow eye sockets. We're not sure about the nose, but we know the mouth, what we have is very small mouth. So the balance point is shifted. Plus there's a lot more brain in here, as you can see, in a different position, so the balance point has to go forward. If this is a deformity, you know, how does it know? How does it know to do that? How does it know to fix everything that's out of whack to put them back in whack so this thing can live? Very, very strange. Now, another thing to keep in mind is these are physically the same size. The same size. They're both smallish. The human skull is, as I said, about a 5-foot tall adult, about a 12-year-old average person. If we were here, if our skulls were here, these two are the same, ours would be a little bit bigger. Bigger to the extent that this should be, and in fact is, by measurement, about 1,200 cubic centimeters of brain. It holds about 1,200 cubic centimeters of brain. If our brains were in here, they would hold about 1,400 cubic centimeters of brain. That's the average, 1,400 cubic centimeters. The Starchild should be 1,200 cubic centimeters. Should be. Thank you. But as instead of being 1,200, it is 1,600 cubic centimeters of brain. 1,600, fully 1/3 more, 200 more than us, and we don't know how it's in there. We don't know how it fits. Because yes, the bone is thinner. That accounts for some. Yes, the sinuses are gone. That accounts for more. Yes, the eye sockets are shallow. That accounts for more. But also, this is very much expanded, but this is very much reduced. We don't get it. We don't really get it. But there's a lot of brain packed in there, wall-to-wall brain, according to putting seed in and pouring it out and measuring it. Very strange. All right, another thing that's very interesting about it is this. The cerebellum of a human being fits here, and it's about 10% of the brain, but it has about 80% of the neurons. It is you. It is everything that runs you other than your thinking parts. Your thinking is all up in here, but what runs your breathing, your heartbeat, the changing of your cells, your software package, this is it. It is the most important part. This goes, you go. Got to take care of that, and nature has. It's got the thickest part of bone right here. It's in the curve at the back of your head. You got all those neck muscles laid in on top of it from here around. It is protected because it has to be. But also inside, there are flanges of bone that come out from a bump. You see this bump outside? There are bumps in here, flanges, that hold it in place. Because it has to hold 3 pounds up on top of it, pressing down for the course of your life without getting bent out of shape. Nature has taken care of your cerebellum because it is you, okay? So, as you see the way it works, the pressure comes down from the brain right here, and it's right into the support package, right into the bone and the flanges of bone that hold it in place. But with the Starchild, we see a completely different setup. Because of the squeeze back here, it has to be, if it's here even, it has to be like this shape, so you've got all this pressure from here, but you've got all this extra pressure piling down on it right there. And guess what? Those flanges of bone, they're nubbed down to almost nothing. So when I had a brain specialist, first brain specialist that really looked at this and really gave it a going over, he said, look, this is crazy. This brain should have come sliding out of the foramen magnum hole like a kid down a slipper slide. It shouldn't be this way. It should have just squeezed out just from the weight of it. So he said, I think this thing probably doesn't have a cerebellum the way we have, or it doesn't have brain consistency of ours, because if it was a brain like ours, it would have flowed out. The kid never should have made it past kidhood. He says, I don't get it. And nobody else does either. It's another one of those great mysteries about the Starchild. Okay, here are the chewing muscles, and as we said, 2 fingers up through here, and you can just, in the real ones, you can just see the line very clearly of where they stop attaching, but that's it. And with the Starchild, as you see, greatly reduced, like with the neck, about half the size. Greatly reduced chewing muscles, much smaller lower face.